Welcome to NAB 2026. I'm James with Ikan. I have here Bryan with Alpha. Bryan is a senior account manager with them. Bryan, tell us about your role as senior account manager and tell us about Alpha.
Yeah, so Alpha is a 50-year-old systems integrator that's headquartered in Minnesota. We have about 120 to 130 employees now, and we do broadcast, sports, casino, and corporate live production environments. So this would be studios, control rooms, all hands, town hall, meeting spaces, and things like that.
Excellent. Across all these different market segments, where are you seeing the greatest opportunities, the greatest growth?
All the markets are pretty strong, but we see the greatest growth in corporate, right? We have corporate customers saying their CEOs want to, we've had customers actually use we want it to look like 60 Minutes, right? Because what you see on Netflix, what you see on Hulu, and what you see on Prime, they have the expectations that if they're going to be on TV, they're going to look like they were on TV, right? So they're raising the bar to try and bring up their production quality to what CEOs and people are expecting to see these days.
Yeah, no, I'm really glad you brought that up, Bryan. Everything we're hearing at the show, everything we've been seeing for the last several years has been that the corporate sector has been driving broadcast adoption and broadcast growth, especially as the traditional TV stations and affiliates are consolidating, right? We're seeing the growth really capture at the corporate level. Are you seeing corporate customers adopting existing broadcast infrastructure or, for instance, baseband SDI, or are you seeing more the IP workflow using some sort of video over IP protocol?
People are still split. SDI is easiest and people are familiar with it. So there's still quite a bit of SDI that's going on. We see a lot of NDI. So between the two of those, I mean, I would say that SDI baseband still is a half or more. Then it's a lot of NDI after that and a little bit of SMPTE 2110.
Okay, that's great. And thanks for bringing up SMPTE 2110. We're hearing and seeing more of the adoption of 2110. The last stat I got was that something like 20% of the broadcast market has adopted 2110, which is pretty incredible. But the 80%, the vast majority, is still utilizing baseband.
Right. That percentage shocks me a little bit. I don't know what all they're encompassing because, as you know, broadcast is kind of a loose term, right? Is that just network affiliates? Is that just tier one network?
I think it's tier one and affiliates. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
2110, good to see this year there's a lot lower cost products, right? So there's two things that stand in the way of 2110 right now. Cost is the biggest one, and then complexity. And when I say complexity, most broadcast engineers don't know IP as well as they know SDI, right?
Yeah.
So it's complex and it's a different knowledge base that one has to have to support a system like that.
Mm-hmm. Now,
but we still do plenty of 2110. I mean, I think it's very legitimate. The cost is coming down, so it is getting wider adoption now.
Yeah.
You know, the question is where NDI leaves off and where SMPTE 2110 starts, right? Where that break point is.
Yeah, that's really true. I assume you guys do have AV integrators on staff with Alpha. Is that or do you guys have AV integrators on staff?
Yeah, so we do both broadcast traditional live, as I mentioned, in sports and corporate and everything else, right? But we also have a side of our business that does more traditional AV, right? So if you look at a corporation, we see broadcast kind of hitting more of the larger spaces, right? So as I mentioned before, town hall, meeting spaces, all hands meeting spaces, those do have some broadcast quality components to them. We don't see that trickling down, though, into maybe a boardroom occasionally where they need a little bit of that. But all the small to, medium-sized rooms, there's no broadcast stuff. And of course, there's plenty of people that make products for the Teams rooms and the Zooms rooms and the Rally bars and those kind of things.
Mm-hmm, that's true. Some of our experience with some of our end customers is that we are seeing, as broadcast is adopting more IP solutions, namely we talked about NDI and any of your preferred flavor of video over IP. We've deployed our PoE lighting for several years now and found great success in the industry. We are also hearing that there is a greater convergence of similar technologies being deployed at the corporate level. So a podcast studio potentially is built using our PoE lights on a drop ceiling, leveraging an NDI teleprompter, for example. So working through a more purely an IP workflow that's being largely powered and distributed through a Netgear AV switch. We're also seeing more recently that conference rooms, MTRs and Zoom rooms and larger meeting spaces that do virtual, not virtual production, but video conferencing. What we're seeing is that they're adopting broadcast quality, so like a broadcast Canon or Sony camera in their space, and also integrating our broadcast PoE lighting to really get that best optimal effect for their customers as they're doing these Zoom and team sessions, sales presentations, marketing presentations. Have you seen that on your end? Are you experiencing that with your customers?
Yeah, typically they set up dedicated spaces for that. So as we mentioned, corporate doing all hands, larger meeting spaces, right? Usually they do complement that with some other, I won't call it a TV studio, but there's some space where it's either some robotic cameras and some lights in a space where they can drag in. If it's a retail environment or manufacturer, they might need to bring in some products and display them or do demos or do training. So we do see a lot of that. And I mean, your guys' PoE lights do hit the mark with that market because they're easy. I love the new low profile lights that you have because it's always an issue in a corporate setting, ceiling heights, right? It's always a 12-foot ceiling or a 9-foot ceiling or anything. You can't get 16-foot ceilings anywhere in a corporate. And these rooms are set up just randomly, right? It's not like it's a purpose-built area and it's in an office building and every floor is 12 feet. So
yeah.
Thank
you so much for affirming that. Last question. You're here at NAB 26. What are some technology solutions that you've seen today that you think you will bring back to your team as part of a future workflow or future design?
Well, I mean, bringing back this Studio Rover that we're shooting this on is one fantastic product we're excited to bring back. We're also following closely the MXL format. For us to come out this year, one of the objectives was to find out how real it is, how close it is, and what kind of impact it'll have. Because as you know, we have NDI, we have 2110, we have all these other IPMX, we have all these different codecs. Now we have MXL, and how does that play into it? So that's one of the things we're closely looking at.
Very, very insightful, Bryan. Well, Bryan, thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate our conversation today. I hope you have a wonderful rest of the show.
Yeah, and I was going to bring up, thank you. I was going to bring up because we actually did an NBC station, getting back to the broadcast subject for a minute, if you're still recording.
Of course, absolutely.
Yeah, so getting back to the broadcast market, to do more with less is a key thing, and people need to produce and build studios at a much lower cost. And this was the first call letter TV station that we've done with full Ikan technology, with Ikan prompters, Ikan lighting and everything, right?
That is so cool.
So, and, I was put in just last year, and I was just out meeting with a customer lately, and they absolutely love everything. They absolutely love the lights. They absolutely love the prompters. So yeah, thanks for making great stuff.
That's awesome. I would love to potentially explore a case study option with you if that's something that that affiliate is willing to do with us.
Yes, and they are willing to do that. So we've already talked about that. So yes,
awesome.
Should be on the agenda for this year.
Thank you so much for bringing that up, Bryan. And that's a really exciting project I want to get to know more about.
Yeah. All right.
All right. Well, you have a wonderful rest of the day.
All right. Thank you, James.
Yeah. Thanks, Bryan.